Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today I'm going to be talking about why Donald Trump is certain to beat Joe Biden in 2024 as of right now. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment down below. And so, as of right now, Donald Trump has around a 42% approval rating, which is slightly higher than Biden's approval rating, which usually going into an election cycle Trump has not had a higher approval rating than his opponent whatsoever. If we look at Biden's approval rating, it's currently minus 12.8 according to a Decision Desk HQ, which is significantly lower than what it was on election day when it was actually plus 6 for Biden. He was sitting at around 52% approval rating while his disapproval was at around 45, 46. So he was definitely favored in his approval rating. And regardless of that, he barely won the last election, with Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona being decided by around 40,000 votes combined, which narrowly gave him the electoral college victory in 2020. And we see that the country as a whole is leaning more Republican, basically asking independents, who do you lean to? As of April, it's 47 to 40. So that is a huge shift for Republicans there. We even see as of April, there are slightly more registered Republicans. I mean, at least people who consider themselves Republican than Democrats, and the independent vote share is pretty much higher than ever as of right now. But we're going into, just about 5 months until the election starts, and we're going into a very favorable national environment. We even see places like Virginia, this polling aggregate was around, a 12-point lead for Biden on election day. He only ended up winning it by 10. Meanwhile, in 2024, we see the latest polling has Biden ahead by 1 with third-party candidates. In a head-to-head matchup, he's actually tied, and that's also similar to this other poll where Biden was ahead by 2 percentage points and with third-party candidates included, and he was actually tied in a head-to-head. We even see with McLaughlin and Associates that with third-party candidates included, Biden leads by 3. So the polling aggregate as of right now is way smaller compared to before. And not only that, we actually see that in a place like Virginia, according to Decision Desk HQ, we actually see that their polling aggregate has the state as a 0.1 percentage point lead for Biden. Trump is almost taking Biden over in the Virginia aggregate. This would be the first time he's actually leading in the Virginia aggregate ever, even in 2020 and 2016. And African American, Hispanic, and young voters are shifting towards the former president this cycle. So it is very hard to come up with a situation where Biden is able to pull out an electoral college win. We see that these states for the former president are going just absolutely fine. He's going to be winning them by safe margins as of right now, including Nebraska's first in the at-large vote in Nebraska. We see Maine second is gone for Joe Biden. And not only that, we see that California is a safe state, albeit very narrowly. My election model, which basically goes through previous results, tracks, election data and whatnot and demographics, has it as a 16-point victory for incumbent President Joe Biden, which is way smaller than the victory in 2020, which was about a 29-point win last time around. We even see a state like Hawaii is only a 13.5-point victory, which puts it in the likely Democrat column. We see Maryland is safe, DC, Massachusetts, Vermont, and including Maine's first congressional district. That's about it for Biden in terms of safe states. We have Washington, Oregon, semi-competitive. They are about, 8-point victories and 6-point victories respectively. We even see Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, get semi-competitive. Even a state like Delaware is actually pretty close. It's only a 7-point victory for incumbent President Joe Biden, which would be way smaller than the 19-point victory back in 2020. So we can see there are huge shifts for Donald Trump this election cycle. New York is even semi-competitive. We see a state like New York be just above a 10-point victory for the incumbent president when he actually won it by 23 points in the last cycle. Most of these states in the likely column were actually, all of them were actually safe states last time. And so there is a huge shift. But states like Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and Texas are in the safe Republican column for the first time for the former president. He's going to be winning Iowa and Ohio, according to my forecast, by 17, 18 points. Texas and Florida are around 16-point victories as of right now. And we even see Colorado, Illinois, and New Jersey get within, single digits, under 5 points for the incumbent president. Colorado's a 3.5 point win. Illinois is right below five, and New Jersey's exactly a 4 point victory. Meanwhile, we see Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, including Nebraska's second, being very easy victories for the former president. All of these states being decided by under 3 percentage points, except for Nebraska's second in the last election, which basically all of these, except for North Carolina, went to incumbent President Biden last time around by close margins. However, due to Biden's unpopularity, he's going to be losing these very easily. And you may say, well, why is Biden losing in such a landslide when everybody says that it's going to be close? The reason why that's going to be the case is because there is a serious polling error that probably will end up occurring. And there are many people arguing that, well, the midterms, oh, if you look at the midterm polling data, they actually underestimated, Democrats, but not really. The national popular vote actually underestimated Republicans by around a point. And on top of that, if you would have looked at previous data and compared how many House seats Republicans had to the national popular vote, you would have known that the midterms would have not been, a red wave year. And even during midterms, without Trump on the ballot, the polling always tends to be more accurate. So just looking at historical polling data, you would have been able to tell that this would have not been a red wave year. And even looking at the governorships, for example, a lot of people were expecting, Kansas to be a loss for Kelly. They were expecting Arizona to flip. Nevada, was going to be Democrat. They were expecting, Michigan to be Republican, Pennsylvania to be Republican. There were these crazy flips. However, the issue with that is that in the last cycle, in the last cycle in 2018, the Democrats actually won the governorship popular vote by three. This was a tied popular vote. So if you were to shift the national environment 3 points to the right, Kansas was a 5 point victory last time around. So you could have predicted that Kansas would have stayed Democrat just off of that alone. Arizona would have been a little bit iffy. So would have been Nevada. But Michigan and Pennsylvania, you would have known that these governors would have won their races fairly easily when you would have been looking at the data as of right now. Even Wisconsin was a little bit of a fluke per se. Michaels maybe wasn't the best candidate there. If you would have basically looked at the shift in the popular vote, you would have been able to forecast a flip here. But Michaels basically was not the best candidate, and Walz, is a somewhat popular governor in Minnesota. So you would have been able to deduce that Democrats would have basically held on to most governorships. And even looking at the Senate map, in the popular vote was actually around a tied popular vote. And last time this map was around, which was 2016, Republicans won the Senate popular vote. So if you would have been able to forecast this being a tied popular vote here, you would have been able to predict that Pennsylvania would have flipped. You would have been able to predict that Georgia would end up flipping into the, column. You would have been able to predict Arizona would have flipped Democrat. You would have been able to flip Masto would have been able to win, by a similar amount. Missouri, you could have been able to predict it would have stayed Republican due to just trends as a whole, including Iowa and Ohio. But you would have been able to tell that it would have not been a red wave year if you had actually been paying attention to the data. And so as of right now, you clearly see flips in Minnesota, New Mexico, Virginia, and in New Hampshire all being very easily for the former president, getting him to 345 electoral college votes. And Maynard Large is actually the only state that ends up staying for President Biden. There's a very white suburban rural population here, and I don't have white shifting enough to the right as of right now in order for that state to actually flip. And so that is basically it for my current forecast. Donald Trump wins 345 electoral college votes to Joe Biden's 193. If you guys do disagree, please comment down below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I will see you guys very, very soon.